do the grips on your Fanatec Formula wheel look a bit like this? Peeling, maybe holes worn in them. Would you like them to look a bit more like this? Fresh leather. You can buy third-party grips from people like Pineapple Grips, but this tutorial is going to show you how to replace your grips with genuine leather while keeping the plastic casing, not using any 3D printed extras. Simracemods.com sell these templates to enable you to cut the leather to the correct shape. You will need some supplies though. You need some leather, 1mm thick maximum, a sticky cutting mat, a sharp knife, leather glue, scissors. So to start with, you place your leather on a sticky cutting mat. Sticky is quite important because it stops it moving around while you're cutting the shapes out. You cut out your 4 shapes for the fronts and the backs and the left and the right. And then we can move on to step 2, which is taking the wheel apart to remove the old grips, because we need to take the grips off to be able to strip the Alcantara or the leather you've got on them and replace it with this leather. So these are what you need to use: some Allen keys and small screwdrivers. So we start by removing these 2 Allen keys in the front of the wheel. They release the hatch that gives us access to where the paddles plug in. So we unplug the paddles there and gently remove the cables, clearing the area of shifter paddles. We need to remove these 6 screws here. This screw here in the back on either side. And then these 4 screws marked here that hold the grips together. The front grip should then lift off. Just be careful not to snag anything. Go easy on it. And then you can pull the whole back off the wheel, but taking great care not to pull any cables. And also the motor should pop out. Now this section here, just be careful in that circled area when you're pulling it out, because there is circuit board in contact with the grips. So once they're off, you can peel the coating off of them, tidy them up a bit. Don't worry about getting them too tidy, just get the lumps and bumps off. And then we need to soak our freshly cut leather in some water. Now this will soften it right up and make it nice and stretchy, so we can manipulate it and get it in the right place. So you soak it in the water for maybe 30 seconds, a minute, until it's stopped air bubbles coming up, and it comes out and it's really quite stretchy. This is 1mm leather. I wouldn't recommend going any thicker than 1mm, so maybe search eBay to get your leather. 0.9mm or 1mm Nappa leather, N-A-P-A, is a really nice, soft, comfortable leather. So you wrap the grip around the plastic, taking great care to align the tops and bottoms and the middle. And once you're happy with how it is, it's very easily stretched into position, so everything lines up. You flip it over and you snip it as we're showing here. You'll see this on the grip you took off. This allows you to fold the leather over into the parts of the grips that aren't seen. Now be very careful not to snip too close to the plastic. Don't go any closer than maybe 2mm away, otherwise when you fold it over you will see your cuts on the finished wheel. So just tuck over the moist leather here. It should stay roughly in place. It's very very flexible and pliable at this point. It's very stretchy. You might notice my hands going purple from the dye in this particular leather, so make sure you don't do it on all this on a surface that you mind getting stained, or use a protective cloth, not your 1-week-old dining table without any protection, as I'm doing here. So once you're happy with how the leather is on there and how everything's lining up, we need to hold it in place until it dries. So you can use the rubber bands. I've found in the past these leave quite deep marks on the leather that are hard to get out. So I like to use sellotape, but sticky side out. So it's not sticking to the leather, it's the the non-sticky side that is touching the leather, and it's literally just to hold the leather in place so we can let it dry overnight. So constantly at this point you want to be adjusting the leather so it's held in the perfect position for drying, because once it's dried it will be quite rigid. You could always make it wet again and readjust, but we want it to dry in the right position so when we come to the next step it's in a good shape. So you see here I'm just adjusting this bottom bit to get it perfect, and then we wrap it up with tape. So after it's been positioned and taped, we obviously do that to the 3 other sets of grips and leave that until it's dry, potentially overnight, maybe longer, but wait until it's dry. Now the next step, once it's dried, we peel back just one of the sections there. You don't want to take the whole grip off because we'll lose the alignment we did in the previous step. So I've got some solvent-based leather glue here. Any will do, whether it's a brush or a tube. I think probably a tube with a brush is the best thing. The bottle here, as the bottle got lower, it got quite annoying getting the glue out of it. So I think a squirty tube is quite good, but maybe a brush to help spread it. So make sure you go right up to the edges, because otherwise you could find it peels off when in use. And with this glue in particular, I just got this one off eBay as a leather glue. It doesn't matter so much if you go over onto the plastic because it's rubbery, and you can just kind of rub it off with your hands. So it's not too much to worry about. So once you've got your leather glue on there, you need to carefully put the leather back on top, making sure everything lines up nicely, that you're happy with it. Press it down firmly all round. See, I've got some on the plastic there, but that's fine, that will rub off. There we go, pressing it all down really firm. So now we've got a nice hold, so that when we do the other parts of the grip, the top and the bottom, then the leather isn't going to move around, it's going to stay where we wanted it. Now you might see some marks on the leather there from the sellotape. Don't worry about that. We'll show you later in the video how to sort those out. So we just continue here, putting the glue on the whole grip. It doesn't have to go on very thick, it's very sticky once it dries. And then, as with the middle bit we just did, we carefully put the leather up, making sure to pull it nice and tight and stretch it up so it lines up with that plastic just right. It will be a lot less stretchy than it was when it was wet. Okay, so push everything down really firmly, make sure everything's got good contact with the glue. And then we do our third end, exactly the same process again. So there we go, there's our third end of the leather, nicely in place. And again, we firmly press that down and then go over the whole grip, making sure everything is firmly pressed down and stretched up to the edges as best you can. Right, now the front of the grip's done, we need to turn our attention to the back of the grip. Now we've got all these flaps of leather we cut in our stage when it was wet. So what we need to do is we need to fold all those back so we can get to the surfaces of them, and we need to glue them and stick them down. Now as we push them down, we need to make sure the leather is nice and tight with no bubbles or anything, and you may use something like a pencil or some other plastic implement to push the leather over and tuck it in on the other side. Just be really methodical and careful about doing it. Try not to get glue all over your fingers, because then you might get the glue on the outside of the grip that you're going to see. and that might not come off. And especially around these tight areas, be really careful to making sure all the leather is in contact with the plastic body where your thumbs are going to go, and it's all nicely tucked in and neat. There we go, looking good. So we need to repeat that process on the rest of the grips, and it's about 10 minutes per grip. At least once you've done one of them, it'll be about 10 minutes per grip. So what we want to do is we put the grips together, and just to make sure it's all a nice fit and everything's squishing together nicely, we'll put the screws back in, we'll clamp them together, and we'll leave the glue to dry. And make sure you haven't got glue on any of the plastic pegs of the grips, or any glue that's going to get in contact between the two, because you don't want them to stick together. All the glue should be under the leather. So we can clamp them together nicely, and then move on to the next step, which is getting the imperfections out of the leather. So after the glue has dried, maybe an hour or two later, we can look at these imperfections here that were caused by the sellotape that I used to hold it in place. So it's really easy. Basically, you get the leather wet, and then you can massage those imperfections out of the leather. So we're just dipping this in some warm water, not for very long, and then we'll have a little go at rubbing those imperfections out. Only takes a few rubs. See if they're still there a little bit. Give it another dip in the water and another rub, and that's looking pretty good. I'm happy with that. So what else can we find? See, there's a little line there. Let's try and get rid of that one. So you just repeat that process for any imperfections you find in the leather. At this point it's just leather and plastic you're dipping in the water, so there's nothing to get damaged at all. You just moisten the leather and dip it, and this will take you maybe 15 minutes, if that, just getting your grips looking perfect. So after this process, you obviously want to let your grips dry out before you put them on the wheel. And then the process we followed to disassemble the wheel, you just follow that in reverse and put the grips back on the wheel, and then you're all done, and you've got some super comfortable brand new looking grips to really freshen up your wheel. Hope you found that useful. You can buy these sort of products from places like Pineapple Grips, where it's 3D printed plastic and they've wrapped it in leather. They're quite expensive. They're really good. They're quite expensive, and you don't get to keep your original plastic mouldings. If you want to keep your original plastic mouldings, save a bit of money, and you like DIY projects like I do, then this might be right up your alley. You can obviously choose any sort of material you like, leather, suede, any sort of colours. The choices are unlimited. Might take a little bit of practice though. Maybe a good idea to buy a little bit more leather than you need, so you've got scrap, so you can have an attempt and just get your practice in before. So I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed doing it, and I hope we can help you out with our templates that will save a bit of time for you doing it. The list of what you need is on our product listings on simracemods.com. Also, I'll put them in the description of the video down below. So thanks ever so much. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, like, share. It all helps us to grow and help everyone in the sim racing community.